Good morning, everybody. The topic of this video today is going to be biomechanical analysis of the shoulder or upper extremity injuries with pitching. So the reason why I chose pitching and the reason why it's important to understand this information is the motions that go on when you are in those phases. There's 5 phases of pitching. You have your cocking, right? So you're cocking the ball up here. It's relatively a passive motion. All these motions that you go through, they're associated with essentially every other sport. So you can take a look at this analysis and you can apply it to those sports based off the same motions that are going on and the same types of contractions that are going on. So you actually have your wind-up phase. This is the passive phase. You're not really doing anything. This is the first phase. You have your wind-up. So this is where the pitcher goes to the mound. Generally, they're going to be using their legs. They're going to be going through the whole entire phase, but we're really cutting this in half when we're taking a look at issues that go on in that upper extremity. So they're at the mound here, and they're in the passive state. They're winding up here. They might take a look. They might look different mounds. So they're not really actively engaging their upper body yet. So they're in the wind-up phase here, and now they're cocking. So now they're activating their rotator cuff muscles. This is the max external rotation. That's the max phase that's going on in the cocking phase. So they're tightening up those muscles, getting them ready to fire. Associated injuries here, you're going to be dealing with shoulder impingement. As you come up to this 90 degrees abduction, right? You're coming out from the body, you're going 90 degrees. The clearance in the shoulder reduces nearly 50%, meaning that all the structures here tighten up and there's less space there. So now you're impinging upon the structures. And then you also have impingement, it's called GERD. So you have impingement issues where since they're externally rotating, they're not internally rotating. And you can have deficits due to the overactivation of these muscles. You're not going to be getting this range of motion here. And you also have a valgus force at the elbow here. So you can see issues with the UCL here at the elbow. Not really common, but it's just an associated pathology due to the structures that are involved. Then you have the acceleration phase, and this is when you're starting to kind of come through here. Right before you decelerate, there's a different phase. Essentially just going through them all: wind up, cocking, acceleration, you're decelerating, and then you have your follow through phase when you come all the way through. So when you're in that acceleration phase, it's when you're activating those external rotator cuff muscles. You're getting ready. Associated injuries here, there's nothing that happens really here until you kind of start to decelerate. And once they start to decelerate, that's when you're kind of contracting here, and boom, now you have to slow this motion down. And as you do that, all your muscles, they need a fire to slow this weight down. It's almost like a heavy weight that you can't quite lift up, and now you're decelerating. You have to be able to control your body so that your arm doesn't fall off. And this is when that deceleration, that fourth phase, is the most violent on the body. It's the highest torque. You're eccentrically loading all the muscles involved. And this is when you have common stuff with this. You're gonna have rotator cuff issues associated there. But really the slap lesions you'll see a lot because the head of the humerus and the labrum, due to that violent torque, that violent speed, you can have the tearing of the labrum that goes on there, slap lesions essentially. Then you'll have bicep tendon pathology, because the bicep tendon has 2 attachment points that are involved in the shoulder. And as you kind of come through this extension phase here, you have to slow your motion down. And that's when you can have tearing of the bicep tendon. You can have teres minor issues just due to the structures involved. You have to slow the contraction down. There's brachialis, so there's muscles right next to the bicep that can be involved in that. And then the follow-through phase is that last kind of phase where you're crossing your body, horizontal adduction, right? And you're internally rotating the shoulder. You're coming all the way through, and this is where the pitcher will go, boom, right? And there's different types of pitching, and then that's another thing, is you can associate all of these motions with errors in pitching, because we were taught, I played baseball, and a lot of the pitchers, they were taught to come all the way out but studies now and what's commonly going on is the closer in your body that your elbow is, that your shoulder is, the more power you have. The farther out you go, you lose power, right? So the torque should come from your shoulders and your hip in conjunction with each other. You shouldn't have to be all the way through here. So keeping the structures tight, they would teach us to come all the way out here. Boom, right? And that's when you can kind of see a lot of these pathologies. You can see errors. You can do a pitch count and you can assess, well, he's weak here. That's not normal. That looks labored. This is because these guys are using those muscles all the time. Even guys who are just throwing the baseball, So, and then taking a look at how this relates to other sports. I do mixed martial arts, and it's everywhere. I mean, there's moves where literally the whole goal is to break your shoulder joint on the opponent. So there's things called Kimuras, Americanas. There is motions involved where you are literally creating injury. And as an athletic trained student, you're essentially trying to prevent those things. You're trying to screen out for those things. And when those things happen, you're trying to identify what's going on. So all these motions, you'll see it. Same thing with throwing a football, right? You're doing a lot of the same motions. And if guys are coming way out here and you can see a lot of these things involved. And so if someone comes in and they're like, my shoulder hurts, right? And you have to do history. This is a great way to say, well, when did that shoulder hurt? Did it hurt here? Did it hurt here? Or did it hurt all the way through? And you can have all these things involved. But it's just a generalized way to take a look. So just going through it again very fast. The wind-up phase is the passive phase, right? It's kind of, they're here. Cocking is when you're getting that external rotation, that max external rotation, that you're loading up here. You're accelerating, right? You're just letting it go. And then you're decelerating. That's when you have a lot of that slap lesion. You have eccentric contractions of all these muscles trying to slow your body down. You can have bicep tendonitis, tendinopathy. You can have a lot of things going on. Rotator cuff stuff can be going on. And then that deceleration phase, due to the fact that your body and your shoulder is rotating all the way through, you're going to have some rotation stress that's going on all the way through. So this is an important thing to understand, because all these associations, I mean, in martial arts and fighting, you got the same type of motions. In baseball, even when you're going all the way through, the shoulder's going through those motions, and knowing when those things are occurring and how the body should be optimized to perform in a way that's not going to cause injury is super important. So hopefully this video was helpful. There's so many references online just to take a look, but I'll just give you an example of what these look like in my book here. This is the orthopedic evaluation book, and you can kind of see the generalized phases right there. And so all these little structures that are involved, all the stresses that are at play, they're really good to know. So you can strengthen those components. You can identify when injury happens, where it happens, why it happened. And that way you can work in a range that's going to be comfortable and safe. So it's just good to know these motions, because they're involved in so many sports. You got tennis, everything your body does, they use the same motions, right? The angles and joint angles and the activity involved might be different. If you're doing all your motion here and you're not doing all the motion here, you're going to have deficits, right? You're going to have different things going on. So hopefully this video helped you. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. And thank you for your time.